So what I'm going to do here for the practical example of how these drives perform is I'm going to take a folder with a bunch of files in it, and I'm going to copy it to and fro, and we'll kind of keep an eye on exactly what's going on when it's doing the data transferring. So the first disk here, the D drive, is actually a Samsung Evo 860 500 gig, and the E drive here is also the same to Samsung Evo 860 500 gig, and here is the Oyunkey drive. Now what it is, I've just freshly formatted that. All three drives are being formatted by Windows itself to its standard parameters for NTFS, so it's like for like here as far as the formatting of the drives is concerned. Now the folder that I'm going to copy is this one. Now inside this folder we have a mixture of files which add up to just over 15 gigabytes. There's 134 of them, and they're in 28 different folders as well. Now in there's a combination of relatively small files and relatively large files. This is basically video data and such, so there's going to be video files in there, text files, graphic files and such. So what we'll do, we'll just get straight on and start copying and observing what goes on here. So I'm going to go from drive E to drive D, which is Samsung to Samsung. So we'll see exactly what goes on here. Now, of course, these Samsungs are, you know, the kind of top-end drives. They may not be the absolute fastest SATA drives, but they are the best combination of speed and kind of robustness as far as I'm concerned. I've always had great success with Samsung drives. As we can see here, going from E to D, we're kind of, I don't know, what are we? I'd say average 450. It's peaking up to 470 there, 480 a little bit, but then it'll drop down a little bit below 450 at points. In fact, I'd say 460 to be fair to that. Okay, so what we've done there, we've tested the read speed of E and the write speed of D. So what we'll do the reverse. I'm just going to retitle this and put another Z on the end. The reason for the Z's on the end is just to denote it from the original folder that it had come from. So what I'll do, I'll go back. So this time we're going to be going from D to E. So Samsung to Samsung, but the other way around. Okay, and what we should see here is a fairly similar result. Okay, so what we're doing here, we've peaked up to 480. Actually, that seemed to be sustaining more around. Oh, it's dropped right down. Oh dear. Right, okay. All right, so that's dropped right down to about 320, 330. All right, well, that's shown a bit of a difference somewhere along the line here between the two Samsungs, although they are the same drives. Okay, well, that's a little bit surprising. So going back from D to E, I'd say we were only averaging maybe 350 to be fair. Okay, so there's the results for that. I'm not going to get into it right now. So what we're going to do now is test each of the two Samsungs going to the Oyunkey. So we'll do D first. So this is going to be D reading and H writing. So we're now testing the write speed of the Oyunkey from the first Samsung. Okay, now, all right, that's that's very surprising. Right, okay, let's see if that drops any further. Right, it's dropping a little bit. I'm going to be very fair here, and oh, that's gone up. I think it'd be fair to say that that's peaking up to over 460. It's gone down at points to 430. Right, I would be very fair to say 440 in its writing from D, which was actually faster than what D was to E, which was Samsung to Samsung. That's mad. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to copy E to H. So again, sorry, it's the same folder name. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to retitle the folder again. So I'll put another Z on the end. Now I'm going to copy. So again, this is the second Samsung going to the Oyunkey. Let's see if we see similar results. Okay. Oh, 490. Right, I don't expect it to sustain anything like that all the way through the test, but that's nuts. Okay. You clearly seen there. Oh, it's took a dive. All right. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's come back up again. Right. Okay, look, it took a slight dive part way through, but it peaked at 490. And I know that's just kind of like a burst rate and stuff, but it's hovering between It's dropped again. Let's see if it goes back up. It's going back up. Okay, listen, I'm going to say that that was, again, roughly 440, thereabouts, between its highest peak, which is obviously a burst, but them low peaks or them low troughs, they were only like minor troughs as well. I would say that that folder there copied fairly much the same kind of data rate as what the first one does. So I'm saying here, and I think it's very fair, the Oyunkey is writing at about 440 megabytes a second on average between the two Samsungs reading back to it. Okay, so that's a bit mad. Right, now let me just delete these folders here off the two Samsungs, and let me just clear the bin a second. Now what I'm going to do is test the read speed of the Oyunkey by sending these folders back to the Samsungs. So Oyunkey back to Samsung 1, as it were. So now what we're testing here is the read speed of the Oyunkey. But as we already seen before, the D drive, or Samsung 1 I'll call it, that just didn't seem to be performing the same as Samsung 2 or Drive E. Okay, so the Oyunkey reading seems to be a little bit haphazard. Although, let's see. Okay, look, it's sustaining there a read speed on average of 440. It's okay, it's took a dip again. Okay. Let's see if it's just, let's come back up again. Right. Okay, what I'm going to say there, I would be safe in saying 400 megabytes read speed back to Samsung 1, which is faster than what Samsung 1 was doing, I believe, from Samsung 2. So what I'll do this folder to Samsung 2. So what we're doing now is testing read speed from the Oyunkey to Samsung 2. Okay, so straight away we've fairly much gone over 400. Right, it's dipping again. I'd say it's going to go back up. It's going back up, but that's now peaked up to 480. Right, it's very obvious here that the caching system inside the Oyunkey isn't quite as good as the Samsungs, but you know what? These read and write speeds on the Oyunkey are definitely sustaining better or averaging better than Samsung 1. Samsung 2, on the other hand, you know, it's only I'd say marginally below, to be honest, on averages. Now it's sustained there at 320. Okay, so between its peaks there and its troughs, it's gone down. It'll come back up again. Yeah, I'd say it was a bit slower. I'd say give it 360 maybe average across that read speed back to Samsung 2. Okay, so far there, I would say on average the Oyunkey is actually better than Samsung 1 and not as good as Samsung 2, although Samsung 1 and 2 are both the exact same type of drives. Now, just as a little finish to the test here, or the actual real world physical test, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time what I'm going to do, I'll do it to my C drive. Now my C drive is also doing other activities, so it's going to be hampered a little bit because of what Windows is doing, but not too much. Now what I'm going to do is copy that to the desktop. Now this particular drive is a SanDisk and it's a M.2, but it's only an M.2 SATA, it's not an NVMe. Okay, now, right. Okay, that's gone very low. So that's only, I'd say, averaging, well, I'd say 170 as an average so far. Yeah, it's going up and down a fair bit. Now, as we've already identified from the Oyunkey writing or reading to the Samsungs, it's definitely capable of 440 megabytes a second on average. So I would say that this is indicative of the write speed of the SanDisk. I'll have a title anyway, will have popped up by now to let us know the exact model of this SanDisk. Okay, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about the SanDisk performance here as far as writing is concerned, because like I say, it is the boot drive. It is taking care of various things to do with Windows activity and such. Although, yeah, I'd say that's a little bit disappointing. So what I'm going to do, like I say, I've got to let this go in real time just so we can get a really good feel for what's going on. Plus, I'll send the same folder back again to the Oyunkey, so then we can kind of test to see what the SanDisk is doing as far as its read speed is concerned. Okay, so we're almost to the end here, so just give it a few more seconds and then we'll go back again. Okay, that's nearly done. Okay, we're done there. So what I'm going to do, I'll delete them from the Oyunkey, and then let me just, in case, no, nothing in this recycle bin. Okay, so again, so this is going back to the Oyunkey. So now we're testing the write speed of the Oyunkey and the read speed of the SanDisk. Okay, I'm going to surmise or hazard the guess that this, oh no, it's dipped right down. I was going to say it should be faster. Okay, there we go. That seems a bit better. Right, okay, so what that's saying to me is that the SanDisk is obviously able to read faster than it's writing, and that's even under the stress of running Windows at the same time. That's a very, very respectable read speed from the SanDisk. And also, we've already established that the Oyunkey in bursts is capable of up to 490 megabytes a second. That's just gone up to 440. I'm going to call that 440 again. Okay, so on the basis of that, I'm safely saying that that Oyunkey is definitely capable of like your average file movements of going at around I'd say 440, 450 on the write speed. And it's probably there what's similar as well on its read speed as we'd seen with SanDisk 2, because that wasn't a slouch either. Now, I do appreciate that I haven't filled that folder full of tiny files, but for anybody who does video editing or content type creation stuff, then this is going to be typical of what you would see. Indeed, if you were moving around like large folders, maybe with game installs on and such and whatnot, you know, where you've got like the exe files and all the rest of it, you'd probably see similar as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just cut away to the kind of like the end summary of this test.